Hey guys, Tamara and Ryan here from The Independent Lawyer. We are here in Panama at the end of week one of the new government administration led by the new president, José Raúl Mulino. We've been getting a lot of questions the last few months about upcoming changes to the immigration laws. People are nervous. Should they be putting a rush in their plans? And so here at the end of week one, we thought it was a good time to sit and talk a little bit about what we've heard, what we're seeing, what we're anticipating.
Yes, Ryan, I think it's a great idea to talk about all these questions and people's been asking, give an idea of our perspective.
Let's jump in. The first question, are you expecting big changes to Panama's immigration laws from the new government administration? Tamara, go.
Well, this is something that I tell all my clients. There is nothing really on the table to know what is going to happen. There is not like a law project that is going to change everything at least in the immigration field. In a positive note, this political party is known for being very pro-business. So I think all of us were ready for a change with the government. I think this change is going to be positive.
Okay. And we actually did write about this on our website.
Yes.
Just a couple months ago, we put an article about what sort of changes should you expect to immigration laws from the elections that were coming up. And I think our bottom line conclusion was that there probably will be changes, right? Not just immigration laws. A new administration comes in. In Panama, the incumbent party never wins, at least the presidential level.
Yeah, always a change.
Yeah, so there's always new ideas, new sort of underlying policy concerns that come in. And so there inevitably will be changes, and those changes will inevitably manifest themselves, I think, in immigration laws.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, totally. But it's important to note that when it changes, usually a law, it will grandfather people that already started with that same law. So even though the law changed or there are new interpretations, you can keep your same path. So it's not then you're going to lose the rights and if you already started an immigration process. That is why a lot of people rush to do it when they feel like it's going to be a change.
Yeah, so if you've already started your residency application process under a certain set of rules, to a reasonable extent, you're sort of grandfathered into those requirements in that process.
Totally.
Yeah. I also think, and listen, I'm a foreigner in Panama, so this is an outsider's perspective, but I see immigration law as an area where the new government can sort of come in and make fast, sweeping, immediate impacts. Right? Like big changes relatively quickly. Most of if you look into the different legislation around our existing immigration laws, most of it's, legislation that came from the General Assembly, or a lot of it comes from presidential executive decrees. And I'll give you an example. The Friendly Nations visa that changed in 2021, that was by executive decree. For those of you that don't know, prior to September 2021, the Friendly Nations visa offered a direct path to permanent residency. That year, I think in May or something, they issued an executive decree saying that, hey, after August, some date in August, it's no longer going to offer a direct path to permanent residency. And now today, you apply for a 2-year residency, and then you go through the whole process again. It's more money, more paperwork, more hassle. That was a huge change. As a matter of fact, in August of 2021, I remember you were pulling your hair out because you had all these people that were trying to rush in and do their immigration process, get it started before the change came, because they knew that they would be grandfathered in to the old laws.
Yeah, and usually when the administration issue a law, they give some time of room to be able to apply for the existing law or check if the new law is more convenient.
Yeah, so, I mean, then it was like a 3-month window, and it was probably the busiest 3 months of your legal career.
Yeah, it was 3 great months.
Okay, the next question. What did President Mulino say about immigration law during his campaign? Go.
Well, he didn't say much. As I said, there is not a project of law on the table everybody know. He only mentioned that he's going to be more strong against illegal immigration. And I think that is something natural. Being against all kind of illegal matters, doesn't matter what is. That doesn't reflect really the political or the direction that the legal immigration will take.
Yeah, and I just pulled out, there was a PDF a few months ago that was floating around WhatsApp groups and stuff, and it's entitled Plan de Gobierno del Presidente Electo, José Raúl Mulino. So it was his sort of, proposed plan should he win the elections. And I want to read what it says about immigration law, which is not much. It's the very last point, all the way on page 10. It says, coordinate with the international organizations and neighboring countries the best practices and immigration policies, respecting human rights and guaranteeing our territorial security and well-being for all Panamanians. Very nice, very politically,
But very ambiguous but
bland.
This politics, any law that is regarding immigration is very sensitive. So he cannot come and say, I will do this and this and this without really checking with his party, with his advisors, everything, how they are going to manage it. But as I mentioned before, the successor of this party created the visa-friendly nations. They are well known to be very pro-business. So in the long run, I think we shouldn't be scared. As I said, the being strong against illegal immigration is something that we expect a president to say. Be strong against anything illegal. But that doesn't really reflect what are going to be the changes on the legal side of immigration. And I think Panama needs all kind of new people coming, always new people, usually bring their best practices of the country. They see the needs. They see that Panama is a very young culture, for say something, a very young city. So we need that that culture of being entrepreneurs, of seeing the problems and trying to find a solution.
I can also see why it's obviously sensitive, right? There are unintended sort of consequences, I guess, when more foreigners come in. And it swings both ways, right? Like, arguably, it can impact crime rates, competitiveness for jobs. Also, if people are coming in from, more expensive parts of the world, then it arguably drives up prices for housing, consumer prices. So unintended consequences, I get that it's sensitive. However, I believe, and if you look back at Panama's history, I believe the net impact of immigration in Panama has been overwhelmingly positive, right?
Yeah, totally agree.
Between the canal, not just foreigners and the presence of foreigners, just sort of access and interface with the broader world, I think has put Panama on the map compared to other Central American countries.
Yeah, totally.
And I started to say that that immigration is a shitty campaign issue, and I think it would be for Panama. However, where a lot of our clients are coming from, the United States, it's like the political issue. It's one of like the top 3 political issues for campaigning. It's also a big thing in Canada right now as well. But not really surprisingly that it wouldn't be sort of a top priority campaign issue in Panama. But I still believe that it's an area where we probably will see some movement.
Yeah, I mean, with new law, as you said, implementing a new law will sweep and change the things how we do it, but it's completely different when you do, for example, an infrastructure project. Then you need to put money in it, you need to wait until it's done to be changes. Instead, like immigration law is just like sign the new law and see the changes. And it could be positive or bad, and you can see how people will start moving to Panama. The last couple months, we have seen an increase of people coming because the law in other countries like US or Canada is changing. So Panama is
benefiting, yeah.
Is benefiting of those law change in other parts of the world. I always say that back in 2008, it doesn't matter what do, you were making money because as the global crisis, a lot of people were investing in Panama because we have banking system very independent and very protective of the liquidity levels of each bank and institution. So Panama banks are not allowed to invest all their liquidity, all their assets. So with other banks in the world were going bankrupt, Panamanian banks, even if they were okay. Yeah, they were okay. Even if they were like international branches or international brands, they were okay. So a lot of people were coming to secure their money here.
Okay. Next question. It's only been a week. What, Tamara, if any, indications have you seen during this first week of the new administration as to what impacts we're going to see in Panama's immigration laws?
Well, regarding this week, the Immigration Office has slowed down completely because they are reinstalling their new positions, the people that they designate. So we haven't been able to take any pictures for the residency cards. This is something that we knew was happening. Every time that the government changed, this happens. So basically, they need to reinstall their system so everybody, all the new chiefs can sign and those kind of things. So we plan in advance, try not to have a lot of people that are coming like for a very 5 days, very efficient and trying to get their papers right away. So we're in the process, we're waiting. Hopefully on Monday, we're going to get the goal for taking again residency cards. But in general, like in a long run, we feel, and we've been reading and talking with other colleagues in the field, that people is happy with the designations.
What do you mean by designations?
With the new chief of the immigration office,
Okay.
he is ex-military, so supposedly he's coming very strong. But besides that, it's very well known people in the field. They know what they are doing. They are lawyers. They were practicing, and like they were in the other side of the window up to now. So hopefully that will bring more flexibility and more understanding with the people working in the government and the lawyers and clients. Other thing is, like before this last 5 years, before the last president, the immigration office was very, I don't want to say flexible in the rules, but were more open to dialogue. So if you have a question, if you didn't understood something, or the government official didn't understood your application, you could come and dialogue, trying to understand how they were seeing it. So it will be like learning. Besides that, at least in the Ministry of Labor, I understand that the designations on the immigration side are being fantastic. People is very happy. As I said, it's people that the chief of the immigration labor law, it used to be a lawyer, is a lawyer, and she practiced and she know the field. So people is positive about those changes, those designations.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of an important point. When we're anticipating changes to the immigration laws, we typically think about changes to legislation or executive decrees from the president, like I mentioned. But it's not just that. It's also ways of interpreting the existing laws in the books. That's one way that the law sort of evolves and changes over time. It's based on interpretations, even societal norms and this sort of thing. Also, the way it's applied. Is it applied sort of rigidly, down to the letter, or is it interpreted in a more common sense way? Are the government offices, like the immigration office, is it sort of being run by bureaucrats, or is it being run by sort of more pragmatic sort of actors? And you see that with, all over the government. When there's a change of administration, things either slow way down, or they speed way up. And all of a sudden, files and other, again, beyond immigration, files that have been backlogged for years, all of a sudden start getting processed. So that's where I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I have 2 points to say about that. I think for the first phases, like when we go to the immigration office, we definitely, at the beginning of each government, usually they have more power to the first attenders to say something. Usually they have more power of decision. When the government is running out, like everything goes to the chief, they become more worried or scared about taking a decision. They said, no, just talk to the chief.
The last couple of months, we periodically have a client or a would-be client come to us and say, listen, I want to apply for the pensionado visa, for example. I have the required benefits. I would qualify. However, when I go get my FBI report or my RCMP report from Canada, unfortunately, there's a little blemish there from 20, 25, 30 years ago. Is that going to be a problem? And, depending on the nature and severity of the charge, sometimes you can kind of give them a quick answer. Sometimes the answer is, well, we don't know. And so we go to the immigration office. Usually the sort of process is to go to the immigration office, request sort of an informal feedback from the immigration office. Is this going to be an impediment for this person to apply? Sometimes the answer is no problem. Sometimes the answer is yes, tell that guy to get out of here. And sometimes the answer is, well, it could be. We're not sure. You need to submit a request for a more formal written opinion, which usually takes about a month. within the last couple of months, we've had some people that have requested that sort of, have made that sort of request, and the feedback we've gotten from the immigration office, has been, they've been less inclined to sort of give an answer. And it makes sense because look, by the time you go give an answer to this guy, he gets his stuff together. By the time he submits and comes back down here to submit his application, it's going to be a completely different administration who, may interpret some of these sort of gray areas a little bit differently from the last administration. Okay, last question, wish list. Tamara, the question is, what kind of changes would you like to see in Panama's immigration laws under the new administration? Tell me your thoughts, and then I'll give mine.
Okay, when a government change, when administration take position, usually the first 2 years or 3 years, it's usually things start running very fast and very good. So I hope that new push will last 5 years. Everything starts very smooth at the beginning, and by the end, as I said, things crumble more, no? But that is one of my wishes. Other thing is, I wanted to see more systematization on the process. I want to be able to register the passport, and it's one of the first points that we do once the client is in Panama. I want to do the registration online, not have to take the passport to the immigration office. Like before, in the Ministry of Labor, was like we have to register the person, take the person to be registered at the ministry, and that is something that takes time. So I would like to be everything in the system. Like I can register a passport online, I can pay the first $5 of registration online, and I can just bring this as a document, as a 2 extra documents to my application. I would love to see that. Other change that I would like is not to have to do different checks for everything, like through the National Treasury or to the National Service of Immigration. I would like to do one payment possibly with credit card or one check, and that's it. They can do the math and do the split in their books instead of having to do checks by checks to every institution.
So your wish list, I see, is very sort of focused on how to make your day-to-day life easier.
Efficiency. It's about efficiency. It's about efficiency. It's about being able to meet the client one day and sign the documents, take it to the notary, and be able to just submit the file the very next day instead do it in 2-step process.
It's true. I mean, and we put a ton of energy and effort into sort of setting everything up so that when a client comes down to start their immigration process, that they can come down here and be in Panama for 5 business days. It's organizing all their documents, translating everything, preparing the powers of attorney so they step off the plane, they hand their passports to Tamara, and on day 4 or 5, they're able to get their provisional 6-month residency card, meaning their application is in the system and in process. So yeah, at the end of the day, 5 business days is still a lot of time, for people to come, take off work and bring the whole family down to Panama to start a process that isn't even gonna, they won't really otherwise see much movement for another 6 months.
Exactly.
My wish list is pretty long, but I will choose a couple that I guess are sort of the top tier. Starting with this one, I don't think it's very likely, but in October, they're changing the golden visa.
Yeah.
The threshold investment amount in real estate from $300,000 to $500,000. It was supposed to change 2 years ago. We talk about this a lot, and they extended the $300,000 threshold for a couple of years. But in October, it's going to change. I would love to see them maintain that. I don't think they will. I think actually, if you are looking at sort of trends with the golden visas around the world, I think it's sort of overwhelmingly, most countries are sort of increasing the threshold. But I think, $500,000 in Panama real estate, it's a big ticket for a lot of people. I think it's going to cut a lot of people out, which, there are plenty of other residency options.
Yeah.
But would love to see them extend that.
I have one big wish more.
Go.
I will love to see the Friendly Nations visa back as in 2012.
What,
the Friendly Nations visa back in 2012 when it was direct to permanent.
Create a company.
Have $5,000 in the bank account.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I agree. I would, this is probably also unlikely, but we get a lot of inquiries about the foreign professional visa, people that would like to be able to use their university level degree to apply for residency, maybe come down to Panama and join the Panama workforce, exercise the profession down here. There's a whole list of professions that are specifically reserved for Panamanians, which I understand. Again, it goes back to the sensitivities about immigration. I get it. However, again, I think in the long run, I think more foreigners coming down, bringing in, international professional experience and education,
and good practices,
best practices. At the end of the day, I think it increases the human capital in Panama, and it would open the door to residency for a lot of people who don't necessarily have the money for a major real estate investment. If you accept that immigration is overall, net good for Panama, but we want good immigrants, right? We want good people coming in. Good doesn't necessarily mean super wealthy and able to drop $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 into an investment property in Panama. So I guess that wraps it up. End of the day, it's still new, it's fresh, but it's happening. It's here. The new President Mulino administration is in power. I don't know. I'm overall optimistic. I don't know about you.
Yeah, we're always optimistic. And so far, most of the changes that we have seen in immigration, even with other parties, other political, other presidents, are being pretty good. I mean, Panama enjoys a lot of having a lot of tourists, a lot of immigrants, so we live of it. So we can just close the doors to everybody. So we're positive.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.